prasade pai e bhavatoriya. Yahara prasade pai e bhavatoriya. Krishna prapti hoya hoite. Krishna prapti hoya hoite. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya. Guru mukha padma vakya chitete koriya aikya. Anakori ho mane asha. Anakori ho mane asha. Chakudana dilo ye janme janme Prabhu say. Was that wrong? Chakudan dilo ye janme janme Prabhu say. Divya gyan hriday prakashito. Divya gyan hriday prakashito. Prema bhaktiya hoite avidya vinashayate. Prema bhaktiya hoite avidya vinashayate. Vede gayan hara charita. Vede gayan hara charita. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhamma Janara Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhamma Janara Bandhu. Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Lokanath Lokera Jivana. Haha Prabhu Korodaya Dehamore Padachaya. Haha Prabhu Korodaya Dehamore Padachaya. Ebe Ashushu Tribhuvana. Sushu Tribhuvana Prabhupada Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Patita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschata Desvatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yaravaya Namaha. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yaravaya Namaha. Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Yaravaya Keshavaya Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan. Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan. Giridhari Gopinath Madan Mohan. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita. Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sham Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jaya Radha Shama Sundar Radha Shama Sundar Radhe Jaya Krishna Balaram 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 Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Jaya Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Nitai Gauranga Jaya Gaura Hari Jaya Sati Pada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Astasara Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai All Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Shri Shri Radhe Shyam Ki Jai. So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, Text 13. The Lord is satisfied with the preacher who is tolerant and merciful. The Lord is very satisfied with his devotee when the devotee greets other people with tolerance, mercy, friendship, and equality. It is a duty of an advanced devotee in the second stage of devotional perfection to act in accordance with this verse. Sometimes devotees are ill-treated by envious people. It is advised that an advanced devotee should be tolerant. He should show complete mercy to persons who are ignorant or innocent. A preacher devotee is meant to show mercy to innocent persons whom he can elevate to devotional service. Everyone by constitutional position is an eternal servant of God. Therefore, a devotee's business is to awaken everyone's Krishna consciousness. That is his mercy. His general view should be to see every living entity as part of the Supreme Lord. Different living entities appear in different forms of dress, but according to the instruction of the Bhagavad Gita, a learned person sees all living entities equally. Such treatment by the devotee is very much appreciated by the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today is the disappearance day of Sri Mahesh Pandit and also the disappearance day of Sri Udaran Datta Thakur. We'll do Harinam as usual in Gainesville, meeting at the corner of 13th and University at 4:30. Please join us. And Mother Nanda will give class today. And here are the devotees who have assisted their Guru in dressing the deities. Shri Shri Radhe Shyam were dressed by Mother Ashta Saki, Chota Radhe Shyam by Mother Ananda Vardini, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram by Mother Akuti, Chota Krishna Balaram by Mother Sri Gaurangi, Shri Shri Gaurnitai by Bhadra Prabhu, Chota Gaurnitai by Mother Leela, and the Gurus and Lord Nrsingadev by Mother Madhuri Gopi and Chaitya Guru.
Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad, Paramahansa Parivadakacharya Astacharya Satashi Shriman, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Shri Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda, Samaveda Bhaktivinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanandi, Purantaraj, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Vacharane, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Desa Tarane. Hare Krishna, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 57, titled Satyajit Murdered and the Jewel Returned. We're doing text 11 through 14, or through 50. We can chant the first verse responsively. Sopi krito yaman gyatva. Sopi krito yaman gyatva. One little edited verse. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service unto the pure devotees. All that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental song, is established as an irrevocable fact. There's one verse in the later on in the prayers by the personified Vedas. Sridhar Swami gives his own version of that, and he says, more or less, if the wind of indiscretion threatens to knock me down, then I must hold on to the pillars of the lotus feet of Srila Sukadeva Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Sukadeva Goswami, who's the transcendental eye of this world. So I always get knocked down by the wind of indiscretion, my failure to acknowledge and offer respects to the previous acharyas and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Okay, text number 11. Sopi krito dhyamam gyatva. Sopi krito dhyamam gyatva. Bita prana parishpasya. Bita prana paripsaya. Sadhaye kritavarmanam. Sadhaye kritavarmanam. Ayachata sacha bravit. Ayachata sacha bravit. Sopi krityodhyamam gyatva Bita prana parishsaya Sadhaye kritavarmanam Ayachata sacha bravit Sopi kritodyamam gyatva Pita prana paripsaya Sadhaye kritavarmanam Ayachata sacha bravit. Anyone? Sopi kritodyamam gyatva Vita prana paripsaya Sahaye kritavarmanam Ayachata sacha bravit. Sopi kritodyamam gyatva Vita prana paripsaya Sahaye kritavarmanam Ayachata sacha bravit. Saha he satadanva api also krita udyamam preparing himself yatva learning bita frightened prana his life air paripsaya wishing to save Sahaye for assistance kritavarma ayachata he entreated saha he cha and abravit said. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada's disciples. Upon learning that Lord Krishna was preparing to kill him, Satadanva was struck with fear. To save his life, he approached Kritavarma and begged him for help. But Kritavarma replied as follows. We can chant the next verses together. Naham Ishvarayo Kuryam Helanam Ramakrishnaya Ko Nukshemaya Kalpeta Tayor Vrinjam Acharam Kamsa Sahanugopito Yadve Shatya Jita Shriya Janard Dasa Samyugad Virato Gataha. Kritavarma said, I dare not offend the Supreme Lords, Krishna and Balaram. Indeed, how can one who troubles them expect any good fortune? Kamsa and all his followers lost both their wealth and their lives because of enmity towards them. And after battling them 17 times, Jarasandha was left without even a chariot. And the purport here is, Srila Sridhar Swami explains that the word helanam indicates acting against the Lord's will, and that rinjinam indicates an offense against the Lord's. 14 together. Pratyakyata sachakuram parshnigaham ayachata sopyaha ko virudyeta vidvam ishvarayor balam. His appeal refused. Satadanva went to Akrura and begged him for protection. But Akrura similarly told him, who would oppose the two personalities of Godhead if he knew their strength? And 15, Ya idam lilaya vishvam shrijatyavati hanticha chetasam vishvashrijo yasya na vidyor mohitajaya. It is the Supreme Lord who creates, maintains, and destroys this universe simply as his pastime. The cosmic creators cannot even understand his purpose, bewildered as they are by his illusory Maya. And the purport is the use of the singular Ya, he, who, indicates that the frequent references to, quote, the two lords, Krishna and Ram, unquote, do not compromise the firm principle of monotheism expressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam. As explained in many Vedic literatures, the one Supreme Lord expands himself into innumerable forms, yet he remains the one and almighty God. For example, we have this statement in the Brahma Samhita 533, Advaitam Achyutam Anadir Anantarupam. The one Supreme Lord is infallible and beginningless, and he expands himself into innumerable manifest forms. Out of regard for the spirit of the Lord's pastimes, in which he expands himself and appears as his own older brother, Balaram, the Bhagavatam here refers to the two lords. But the, quote, bottom line is that there is one supreme Godhead, one absolute truth, who appears in his original form as Krishna. So, Oma Gyana Timirandasya Jananjana Salakaya Chaksu Umilitam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master forced open my eyes. With the torchlight of knowledge, I am eternally indebted to his lotus feet. So the verses, once again, just to catch the flow here. So this is after Satyajit is murdered. So Satyabhama had gone to Hastinapur to tell the Lord the horrible news. The Lord has lamented and with tears brimming in his eyes. And now he's returned to his capital with his wife, and upon learning that the Lord was preparing to kill him, Satadhanva was struck with fear. To save his life, he approached Kritavarma and begged him for help. But Kritavarma replied as follows. Kritavarma said, I dare not offend the Supreme Lords, Krishna and Balaram. Indeed, how can one who troubles them expect any good fortune? Kamsa and all his followers lost both their wealth and their lives because of enmity towards them. And after battling them 17 times, Jarasandha was left without even a chariot. His appeal refused, so Sadadhanva went to Akrura and begged him for protection. But Akrura similarly told him, who would oppose the two personalities of Godhead if he knew their strength? It is the Supreme Lord who creates, maintains, and destroys this universe, simply as his pastime. The cosmic creators cannot even understand his purpose, bewildered as they are by his illusory Maya. So Bhagavad Gita, 4th chapter, gives us some very important information about the Lord's appearance. Janma karma chame divyam. Krishna says there, if anyone can understand my appearance and birth in this world, then they won't have to take birth in the material world again, because his birth and appearance are so transcendental. So I remember many years back reading that verse thinking, oh yeah, I understand Krishna's birth and appearance. Prabhupada told us it's all really simple. He was born here, he did this and that. But actually, as the time goes by and you read and read and read and hear and hear and hear about the transcendental nature about his birth and activities, they never cease to amaze one. And the activities of his devotees never cease to amaze one. And to see how the relationship with the Lord and his devotees is so intricately played out through his leela, through his pastimes. And each personality is completely absorbed in the role that they take in serving. The Lord's completely absorbed in his role, as was mentioned yesterday so nicely, and the devotees, they're completely absorbed in their role. And it's not so easy to understand why things happen the way they do with our mundane intelligence, it doesn't always go according to what we would, how we can understand. Just for example, take Akrura's position. Akrura is cited in the Bhagavatam by Sukadeva Goswami. Sukadeva Goswami describes Akrura as Mahi Mani, high-minded Akrura. High-minded Akrura, and he is so devoted to the Lord. And he's in full knowledge, even before the Lord's appearance. High-minded Akrura is in full knowledge that the Lord is going to descend soon. And if you remember back in the 2nd chapter of the 10th canto, when it starts to speak of the Lord's appearance and Kamsa's atrocities, when Kamsa begins his atrocity and his persecution of the Yadu, of everybody, he particularly targets the Yadu dynasty. And many, many, many members of the Yadu dynasty, as explained in that 2nd chapter, they leave their homes out of fear of persecution by Kamsa. Not only do they leave their homes, but they don't go and get comfortably situated in another place. They hide themselves in caves. It's described there. A lot of them hide themselves in caves. So we can just imagine. Now, these are not wimpy personalities. The Kshatriya dynasty, they're great. The Yadu dynasty, they're great Kshatriyas. So they're not cowards or anything, but still, out of fear of the persecution of Kamsa, they hide themselves in caves. But Akrura, he takes a different stance. And there's one or two sentences where Prabhupada indicates that, but some of the members of the Yadu dynasty sided with Kamsa. And that's how they survived the persecution of Kamsa. So Akrura, in that place, he's described as Maitri. He's a friend, a minister, a friend of Kamsa. Now he takes that position not because he agrees with Kamsa and his activities, but he takes that position because he's calculated that this is the way he's going to be able to see the birth of Krishna, free from fear. Any other way, if he was exiled and hiding, and he starts to move about, then Kamsa's spies will surely find him and do whatever they're going to do. So he takes, bless you, he takes a position of Kamsa's minister, friend, trusted advisor, just so that he can see Krishna's pastimes, because he knows that if he stays with Kamsa, Krishna is going to kill Kamsa, and somehow or other he's going to get to see Krishna in that way. So that's why he takes his position. It's on first glance of Akrura's position, it's not always easy to understand Sri Akruraji and especially when he comes to Vrindavan, when he gets the instruction by Kamsa to go to Vrindavan and take Krishna to Mathura, and he becomes what's described. It's described in Nectar Devotion. Akrura is described as terror personified to the gopis, because he took Krishna out of Vrindavan. Yet at the same time, he's a great, pure, exalted devotee of the Lord. So it's just so interesting how we were yesterday, the discussion of Leela, and Leela Shakti was there in the class. But it's just so interesting to see how the different layers of the Leela are there. They're not all just what meets the surface. There's so many layers there. And it's interesting to see how they play out. And it's not, at least, it's not always logical or to our mundane, logic and reason how and why they should be that way. Even take Kritavarma's position. If you remember, Kritavarma is spoken of in Bhagavad Gita. And you know what he says there? He doesn't say, but you know what? It's Duryodhan who's pointing out, and there's Kritavarma and Shalya and this one and that one, and they're prepared to lay down their life for my sake. That's 9th verse in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. They're prepared. So Kritavarma, although he was commander-in-chief of the Yadu's soldiers before the war, he was commander-in-chief, or maybe one of the commanders-in-chief, but he's described as commander-in-chief of the Yadu soldiers. When Krishna proposed to Arjuna and Duryodhan, they could have whomever they want to help. They could either have his armies or himself, but he, and so Arjuna very happily took Krishna to have him on his side, and Duryodhana was more than happy to take all of Krishna's soldiers. So after he got all of Krishna's soldiers, Duryodhana was feeling quite reassured that now there's not going to be any problem in this battle. Now I have all of these other soldiers, my soldiers, their soldiers, so many soldiers. And on his way, it's described in Mahabharata, on his way out from that arrangement, he stopped off to see Kritavarma. And he asked Kritavarma, please, will you fight on my side? And even though Kritavarma was not inclined to do it, because he was asked by Duryodhana, somehow or other, it's codes of Kshatriya, they can't refuse requests, he fought against the Pandavas, even though he was a Yadu dynasty member. He was actually a member of the dynasty. Ninth canto describes that Kritavarma's father was Hridika. Hridika had 3 sons, Devamita, Kritavarma, and Satadanu. And it never really correlates if that Satadanu is Satadanva. But anyway, there was 3. Devamita, Kritavarma, and Satadanu were sons of Hridika. Now Devamita, do you remember who Devamita is? Devamita is the father of Sura. And Sura gives birth to Vasudeva and all his brothers. And Vasudeva gives birth to Krishna. Yeah. So they're all in the family there. It's amazing how it's so tied together. And as the days go by, and we get to hear a little bit of the intricate familial relationship between one another, then it even makes more poignant Arjuna's dilemma when he's there on the battle of Kurukshetra. You read it, oh yeah, there's my kinsmen and family and fathers and friends, and then you go on to the next verse, and the next verse, and the next verse, and you think, oh yeah. But then when you see, wow, that was he was on the level of his grandfather, Kritavarma. Anyway, just interesting to try to understand it in all ways. And still is there a quote-unquote good explanation why Akrura and Kritavarma get involved in this assassination plot, as Hridayananda Maharaj so aptly coins it, this assassination plot to kill Satyajit? And, there's plenty of explanation that the Acharyas give, but it's all so intricate. And it's there. Layers, subtle layers. Well, Akrura really, because of his offense to the gopis cursed him, that they would actually, that he would actually be bereft of the association of devotees. And so, as this chapter goes on, when Akrura hears that Satadanva's been killed, then he and Kritavarma leave town and go off to Kasi. And there he continues to worship the jewel there, but we'll save that for somebody else's classes. But then again, I was looking in Nectar Devotion just to try to get my bad feelings for Akrura washed away and put in the proper perspective. In Nectar Devotion, in chapter 29, when Srila Prabhupada's explaining about the Vyabhichari bhavs, these Vyabhichari bhavs, which are amazing emotions which surge up like waves. They surge up like big waves in the relationship that one has. So one's steady relationship with Krishna, that's called sthai bhav. But these Vyabhichari bhavs, these emotions, surge up, and they are manifest very strong, very intensely for some time, and then the wave, as waves do, then it just falls back into the ocean of the steady relationship. So, again, where it's described about Akrura in chapter 29 of Nectar Devotion, and that's where it says that Akrura, who is also known as terror personified for the gopis, this huge, after this incident, or in the part of this incident of the Samantaka jewel, this huge wave of doubt surges up in Akrura's heart, this Vyabhichari bhav of doubt, and it adds to his relationship because he gets a little doubtful about, his implication in this. And somehow or other, it flavors his relationship with Krishna in that way. And then it goes back down. So, when it comes to questions, don't ask me much questions about Vyabhichari bhavs, okay? But I'm just mentioning it there. But it's interesting because Nectar Devotion starts off, Srila Rupa Goswami's verse explains how Krishna is Rasa, Akila Rasamrita Murti. Rasa, he's interested, Krishna's interested in the ras, in the relationship, in the loving relationship. And that was also mentioned yesterday, the end of class with the questions. How everyone has a particular relationship with Krishna, and Krishna accepts, loves, and instigates those relationships, stokes them to reach the highest pinnacle of intensity. Because if you've noticed, Krishna is never really satisfied with mediocrity. He always likes things intense. The intense love of the gopis, the intense love of Mother Yasoda, and all these intense activities here that are happening with all in this chapter, on these past few chapters, and the rest of them. He likes things intense. He likes to relish the different relationships like that. So, just a few thoughts on that particular part of these verses. Oh, wait, don't ask questions. Okay, go ahead, ask. Can you wait? Can you wait till the end, or I'll... All right, go ahead. Go ahead, ask. Sorry, excuse me. I wasn't finished. I was going to do the next couple of verses, but go ahead. Go ahead.
One Yadu didn't go with the Kauravas. Do you know who that was?
Could you just say it again, please?
I'll say one Yadu.
One Yadu?
Did not go with the Kauravas.
Who was that?
That was Satyaki.
Satyaki.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
And I think he was the disciple of Arjuna.
Mm-hmm. He learned the art from Arjuna.
Also, Kritavarman, he was the lone warrior that came out.
Yeah, interesting, isn't it?
Kritavarman.
Yeah, Kritavarman was the one on the...
Dronacharya in law, what's his name? Kripacharya.
Yeah.
And Ashwatthama.
Kripacharya was like the priest. Another thing that I remembered about Kritavarma, just to again show how he had a quite intimate relationship with the Yadus. Kritavarma's son was named Bali, and Bali married Rukmini's daughter, Charumati. So, and there's, when you do your Google search, which I did for Kritavarma and stuff, there's so many things that he's there at this wedding and that, and so many things. He's totally intimately united with the Yadu dynasty. So it's, when we take our position and we think of what, I, me, and mine, my friends and enemies, who, we just see on the bodily concept, they don't work like that at all. They're not on that level, these great exalted souls. They're not on that level of, this is my friend, this is my enemy, and whoever likes me is my friend, and whoever likes my enemy, whoever likes my enemy is also my enemy. That's how a conditioned soul thinks. We're just always splitting everybody up into who's favorable towards me and who's not favorable towards me. But I guess that's a little hint of what transcendental means. To Krura's and Kritavarma's responses, well, actually, first, Satadhanva's response struck me. Satadhanva, when he heard that he was that Krishna was preparing to kill him, he became very fearful, and that reminded me of this very nice, very striking prayer of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, where he says, "When I committed the sin, I had no thoughts of anything, no thoughts of God or anything. But now that I'm suffering the reaction, now I'm pleading for mercy." So Satadhanva, he had the opportunity to think through what would happen, but he didn't think through. He just thought, oh, I'm going to gain this and this and this. He never thought of the cons. He only thought of the so-called pros. And now that it comes out that Krishna is about to start his chase after Satadhanva and kill him, to chastise him for killing his father-in-law, Satadhanva flees and he's in fear of his life. Then when he goes to Kritavarma says, "I dare not offend the two supreme lords, Krishna and Balaram. Indeed, how can one who troubles them expect any good fortune?" And then he explains how Kamsa, because he wanted to oppose the Supreme Lord, lost his life and his wealth, and Jarasandha was left with only his chariot, even though he was so powerful, wealthy, and opulent. So Akrura, he says that it's the Supreme Lord who creates, maintains, and destroys this universe simply as his pastime. The cosmic creators cannot even understand his purpose, bewildered as they are by his illusory Maya. So in the purport, they're quoting from Brahma Samhita 533, Advaitam Achyutam Anadir Ananta Rupam. But that also reminded me of a verse a little bit further on. I think it's 40-something, 43 or whatever. When I think of this verse, I always think of this chandelier. Departure eva hidasantaram abupetya. That's there's one supreme candle, and that one candle lights all the other candles. And even though somehow that's the one, that's my visualization, this big chandelier in the middle. So the one supreme, because it's also in the purport referring to that Kritavarma referred to the two lords, who would oppose the two lords, and they're talking about how Srimad Bhagavatam's presentation is monotheistic, that there's only one God. So Lord Brahma, in the very beginning of creation, he explains how is it that there's only one Lord, and yet he manifests himself in so many forms, unlimited, Advaitam Achyutam Anadir Ananta Rupam, unlimited forms, because he's the supreme candle, the supreme one, and he has unlimited forms and potencies. And even by, as Sri Shapanishad explains, even by his expansions, his unlimited expansions, he is never less. He's never lessened in his potencies. Purnam, he's completely, he's complete. And even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. So these are just some of the Lord is described as Parasya Shaktai Vivihayar Shruyate, and then the next line I always, Svabhavaki Jnana Balasya Kriyacha. So all of his unlimited potencies, bala, strength, and beauty, and whatever, they're all, etc. They're all those Shaktis are acting on independently, practically, on their own. They're unlimited potency to act. So the Lord, as also was another nice point at the end of class yesterday, he has unlimited, innumerable relationships with each and every living entity. And he's interested in bringing them to the highest cumulative point in those relationships. So he's able to relate to people in so many ways. And oftentimes it just kind of bewilders us because we're thinking relationships should be this way, morality means this, fidelity means this, and love means like this. And Krishna mixes them all up sometimes and still gets the highest result from it. Those are a few of my scattered thoughts. Hare Krishna. Janmastami Prabhu?
One of the reasons that we understand that Krishna performs his pastimes is to attract us to ultimately participate in them. And my question is this. There's, I think it was the second purport of Nectar of Instruction, there's a discussion of Antaranga Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti, and how we can be under the influence of the Antaranga Shakti, which is the internal potency. Okay, so that's there. And then we have, I don't know if you had an opportunity to read Miracle on 2nd Avenue, but it's like a mind blower. You know, it's like right out of, Krishna book, that's so powerful, all these amazing episodes that Krishna arranged for Prabhupada to start the movement. Then, don't worry, I'll tie it all together in a question.
Everything's fine.
There's another really amazing reference. It's easy to remember, 9.10.20. And this is Ram Leela. And there's a description of how Ravana's army is comprised of monkeys recruited from the jungle. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Ravana's army is comprised of professional soldiers equipped with modern weaponry, whereas Ram's army is recruited from the jungles, monkeys recruited from the jungles with sticks and stones as weapons. And then Prabhupada describes two types of power. Daiva, which is derived from transcendence, and Purushakar, which is derived from one's own intelligence and bodily strength, which of course is illusory. Now, and then he attributes the power that Ravana and his army have to Purushakar, whereas Ram's army, it's Daiva. And then Prabhupada says of the two, Daiva is always superior. And we can see that, like Arjuna, he gave up the army, but he got Krishna. The Kauravas outgunned militarily. That's maybe not the right word, but anyway.
It's okay.
It's Kali Yuga. They had much more vastly much much more military strength, than the Pandavas. But yet, the Pandavas had Krishna. So here's my question. Okay, there's the background. It does seem that we get, as we go deeper in our sadhana practices and advance in Krishna consciousness, that we get sneak previews of the Leela, of participating in Leela, because there's all these really amazing arrangements that Krishna makes. Now, you used to distribute books a lot, didn't you?
Not a lot.
Not a lot? Okay. Anyway,
I just make everyone else distribute the books.
Like when you chant really good rounds on book distribution, and Krishna performs all these miracles, and sends these incredible people, and like that. If you chant lousy rounds, you don't get them. You get all the, you get the cops, hauling you off to jail and things like that. So what I'm thinking, and I actually was conceiving of this question yesterday, but it does appear that these pastimes, they're filled with all these incredible things. As devotees advance in Krishna consciousness, they gradually start transiting into this type of arrangement that Krishna makes. You see the example of Srila Prabhupada. See the example of some amazing events that take place within our movement. Where there's like incredible arrangements that take place in a devotee's life, practically speaking, inconceivable, and yet, and there's an incredible result to come from it. That's one of the points, that Bhagavad Gita ends. Wherever Krishna and wherever Arjuna, there's opulence, victory, like that. So that happens, if there's very strong sadhana practices and devotees are very dependent upon Krishna, they tap into this daiva. I don't know if I'm asking a question or if I'm making a really long comment.
It's okay.
But I think you get the drift of what I'm saying. Can you authenticate some of the points that I'm making? Give it some authority?
I was going to ask Lakshmi Moni to do that because she looks very eager. But while the mic is being passed over to Lakshmi Moni, I just wanted to tell you when you said that thing about Sankirtan, I can just remember one experience I had in Sankirtan to this very day when I was never, okay, we won't morph to that yet. But anyway, I never did it very well. But so I was struggling in LAX. In LAX, trying to distribute books and getting a lot of no's and other things. And this one Indian man, after, getting worn down by all the no's, and then all of a sudden this one Indian gentleman came and quoted ninth chapter Bhagavad Gita to me, that not to worry because whatever you're lacking, Krishna will carry. He'll preserve what you have and carry what you lack. Anyway, Hare Krishna. That was my transcendental experience.
Gatwika and I were conferring, and we don't agree with the hypothesis that, of course, if you chant good rounds, that helps you on Sankirtan. Yeah. But the fact that you get picked up by the cops or no one takes a book doesn't mean you didn't chant good rounds.
Yeah. That struck me also.
I think also what happens a lot, at least from my perspective, is that as you read and chant and hear and associate and do whatever you've done for the last 48 years or 45, you get to see things differently. So even though the same things kind of sort of were happening, you just didn't notice them before. But now you see them as directly connected to Krishna, and you kind of start to understand a little bit, tiny sometimes, how things are Krishna's arrangement for something, for you to learn something, for something to happen to you.
Yeah. Also, too, because when you were speaking, I thought of Haridas Thakur when he was beaten in the marketplaces. So, he didn't, not that day. Well, we're straightening that out. Thank you. but still, there. See, that wasn't recorded, so that was good. But still, the general point, aside from that detail, the general point is that Krishna does, as one becomes purified by the process of devotional service, then Krishna is making, and not only is Krishna making, but I agree more with the point there that we're seeing Krishna's arrangement in our lives more. John Mastami Prabhu has more to say. Oh, let's go to Manamati, and then you'll have more to say even after that.
I know you didn't want us to ask the question about Vyabhichari Bhav,
but I'm going to do it anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All
right. Could you kind of repeat what you said?
About the wave?
Yeah, I guess I'm trying to understand. You were mentioning that in regards to Akrura.
Oh.
And so I needed to hear it again.
Well, okay. Vyabhichari Bhav was explained, I guess it was. Oh, it was explained by Dhanadhar Maharaj in Waves of Devotion. I read there. Waves of Devotion, that it's like a surging of an emotion, like a wave, and it compares it to a wave, like different emotions surge, and in this case it was doubt. Now, I have to admit that doubt, surging of doubt, doesn't directly apply to these few verses that we read, but it will apply to the next few verses. I don't know exactly, but when Akrura hears that Sadadanva has been killed, and then he gets fearful and moves to Kashi. Okay, so he gets doubtful about his participation, that Krishna is not pleased, or this or that, or why did he... I don't know exactly his doubt there, but just there says that he became doubtful about his participation in stealing the Shamantaka jewel, but somehow or other that wave of intense doubt, that wave of emotion, somehow or other adds to his relationship, his sthai bhava, his steady relationship with Krishna, and it flavors it, just adds more flavor, because Krishna likes varieties of flavor.
He wasn't doubtful of Krishna being the supreme,
no.
But he was doubtful of that. Did he do something? He shouldn't have done that.
Yes,
and so that almost like a feeling of regret.
Mm-hmm. That's my understanding. Put it that way. Yeah. So not that he wasn't doubtful of Krishna's position. No.
Yeah, but doubtful of his own involvement in this whole thing and feeling regretful or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I did have another question, actually, if you don't mind. Since I have the mic, I'm going to ask.
She's not like, she only looks particularly submissive, but Madhumati's a little feisty. Yes?
Okay. You mentioned about Krishna likes intensity. He doesn't like mediocrity. He likes intense. Could you explain that in our own devotional life, what that means, intensity?
Not to fear that he's going to necessarily make all of our lives intensely full of suffering, or intensely this or intensely that. At this particular stage in our devotional service, it could happen. I mean, anything could happen. Disaster comes, whether you're prepared for it or not. But Krishna takes his... Krishna... I don't know what he does. When his devotees are on certain levels and they have a certain relationship with him, then oftentimes he helps. He's the cause of the purification. We're saying that we need to chaito darpana marjanam, clean the mirror of our heart and mind, so that we can actually realize our real identity and real relationship with him, clean off all our false identifications that we have. So Krishna's he's the cause of all causes. So he's the purifying force that's there, and he's arranging our lives so that if one is yeyatamam prapadyante, if one is desirous to surrender to him, then he's making all arrangements in our lives so that we have the opportunity to surrender to him fully, more and more completely. Sometimes we think when we first join the movement, we're thinking, yes, I'm a surrendered soul, I'm fully surrendered to Krishna. And according to our capacity to understand at that time, yeah, we're a surrendered soul. But now, having gone, spent time in the fire of devotional service, where our consciousness is expanded, hopefully, to the point where we can see that there's so much more ahead of us, and so much that we're holding back, and so much more that we need to surrender to him. So the Lord's making those arrangements, and sometimes he's doing it in an intense way, but not all the times.
So we can pray for.
That's what Queen Kunti did, and look what she got. Hare Krishna. So you can pray for that if you're ready to accept it, but you don't really have to. Actually, I remember hearing now Satchidananda Maharaj, he was saying, you don't really have to pray for calamities, because they're going to come anyway. That's the nature of the material world. Calamities are going to come, and they're going to come. So if you want them to come faster, okay.
So you're equating calamities to intensity?
Sometimes. Hare Krishna. Jamasami?
how about equating intensity with utsaha?
Yeah.
That's really, like when Prabhupada was questioned by some of his senior disciples, how it was that he was so successful over and above his godbrothers in spreading Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada responded by saying, because I have utsaha. He said it in a very humble way. And then there's another point in this regard in Bhakti Aloka, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and his commentary on utsaha. He describes that that's the primary thing that we can, if we have utsaha, then we can counteract pramada, inattention, which is a root cause of all the other namaparats. So it's a very key point. So, and what it strikes me is that Krishna arranges different situations to heighten our utsaha. Maybe it comes in the form of calamity, maybe it comes in a form of encouragement, or really positive things, opportunities, powerful preaching opportunities that come up. So, but it seems to me that that's the driving force, of devotional service. It's such a significant point, and that's what intensity is all about, right? What's that? Utsaha means enthusiasm. Well, how is it that Prabhupada in the Nectar of Devotion, he describes it, endeavoring with intelligence. But, oftentimes, we, just kind of off the top of our heads, we'll say, well, enthusiasm, just unbridled enthusiasm. But if it's governed by intelligence, then it's going to be very effective, of course. But, in regards to this point about Daiva and Purushakar, I had I did Sankirtan 14 years. That was my first service. And there was an incredible correlation, and 13 of those years I was a Sankirtan leader. There was an incredible correlation between the utsaha in sadhana and the results that would come, practical results, not only with myself, but also with my parties. So we stressed it tremendously. So, and I would say that, this is, like there's one example in Mula Prakriti's book, Srila Prabhupada, what is it, a friend to all? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there was one pastime that really stood out in my mind. She had interviewed this Baba, who had been was born in Radhakund and been a pujari for 89 years or something like that. And he was serving as a pujari right next to the Radha Damodar temple. Mm-hmm. He would take rest at night. Mm-hmm. You remember this? This is like mind-blowing. He'd take rest at night, and in the middle of the night he'd be awoken by this crying noise. And he kind of would roll over and go back to sleep, didn't think of it. Then one night his curiosity really got him because it was very intense one night. So he got up on the roof, and he could detect that the sound was coming from the courtyard, Rupa Goswami's samadhi. And there was, and then he saw there was Srila Prabhupada on his hands and knees cleaning the ground before his samadhi. This is like, in the middle of the night, and just, hey Rupa, hey Samadhi, give me your mercy. This intense cry. And then later on, he when he was interviewed by Mula Prakriti, he could understand, on the level of intensity of Srila Prabhupada's sadhana, his bhajan, why he was so successful. So this is the point that's being driven home on this reference that I gave, 9.10.20. That when we're in the Antaranga Shakti, when we tap into Daiva, which is always superior to Purushakar, then we can accomplish many things, on behalf of Krishna, which is basically what takes place in the Leela. It's always the Purushakar Walas, they get driven into the ground, because they don't depend upon Krishna. They don't take shelter of Krishna. They have a demoniac mentality. And that's demonstrated time after time after time, in the Leela. So, anyway, that was my experience, my practical realization over many years, and it seemed to really work.
Jai, keep at it. Madan Mohan is very anxious to add something.
My observation is that there's a phenomenon that can happen in Krishna consciousness where you get on the mental platform. And when things get turned up to a certain point, there's a colloquialism that it shows you what you're made of. So when it gets to that intensity that you were referring to, it gets you off the mental platform to see how now can you take shelter of Krishna in this situation? How is your intelligence when it's out of your normal functioning zone? So that's the way I saw it. Just like when Vasudeva, he drops Krishna, taking him over to. So that's intense. Of course, there's all these other things because it's the river and Krishna goes, Vasudeva comes out, Krishna comes out. Does training because he never. But that's what I was thinking. Right. I've noticed that myself. It gets off the map.
And Kalipani Prabhu, I think that'll be the last comment. So better be good, Kalipani. I'm sure it will be.
After 40 years or so of trying to do sadhana, I'm starting to think that maybe I need to not expect anything as a result of my efforts, and rather, just take whatever happens as being Krishna. And I'm seeing that's surrender, not that, come on, Krishna. I mean, look what I'm doing. Why? How come? But see, the good is Krishna and the bad is Krishna, and that would be surrender. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's if you get a lot of misery, then as a result, even apparently as a result of sadhana, that's good because it's Krishna, and it helps us to surrender. I mean, surrender means no matter what, I am your servant.
Jai. And Lakshmi Moni's dying to say something too, and I can't neglect it. But while it's going over there, just see the different flavors, here. And they're all, you can't say, oh, that's wrong, or whatever. They're just all expanding, and this is the process of bhakti.
Maybe Madhavati was going to say it, but I get these letters all the time because I answer letters for Krishna.com. And one of the most common questions is, how come I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I'm reading the books, and my life is still miserable? And once I told Madhavati that I had a question like that, and she said, well, you should tell him that he's not chanting intensely, and he must be chanting well because his life is still miserable. And so his life is, if he's really chanting well, it'll get more miserable.
And he'll get out. Yeah.
So you get the inspiration to have that utsaha to go back to Godhead. And it wasn't actually the idea that by chanting good rounds, inadvertently or advertently, one gets whatever one wants to get or whatever one gets. But the opposite, that negative things mean you didn't chant good rounds. That's not, I don't think that is shastrically anywhere. That if that something bad happens and it means that I didn't do it right. Because look at practically so many of Krishna's best devotees. They get put in so many
I can remember one
situations.
Sankirtan newsletter Rameshwar wrote years ago. Rameshwar Maharaj wrote, and he said, even the mother of God suffered. So who's to think that we cannot? Okay, and
Suffering's so relative.
We're almost finished, but Jamastami, and then we're really finished, okay? I promised. Hare Krishna. No, I won't. Because you're little enough I can hear. Okay.
In terms of personal calamities, can be actually accelerated by chanting really good rounds. But in terms of pushing the movement on, you look at the standards. Temples that are very successful, they have very, very strong sadhana practices. And devotees that render a lot of service, it usually correlates with that. So in terms of pushing the movement, and that's where the daiva is, it doesn't have to do. I mean, look at Prabhupada, the personal distresses that he went through. Gored by
like
bull.
with Juhu.
Yeah, Juhu, the whole thing,
And he kept going.
The point is, pushing the movement on, pushing Lord Chaitanya's movement on, is directly correlates to how much one is within the Antaranga Shakti as opposed to the Bahiranga Shakti. Now, when one is in the Antaranga Shakti, under that influence, doesn't mean that calamities don't come, because that's how Krishna intensifies things and gives us his mercy. 1.9.19 describes, there's different bhavas that Krishna has with his devotees. Prabhupada describes in a purport. He first opens up with the relationship with Yashoda Mai, this deep, loving Vatsalya Ras, and then Arjuna and Sakya Ras, driving his chariot for Arjuna. And then the last point he makes, in the tribulations a devotee undergoes, is another transcendental bhav with the Lord. Krishna puts, and then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says that Krishna puts a devotee in distress to deepen his devotion. So it doesn't mean that devotee that's put into distress doesn't have tremendous potency for pushing Lord Chaitanya's movement out. It may even increase it tremendously. So anyway, those are my...
Well, thanks for sharing that. We are going to end. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Hare Krishna.